And welcome to Ask the Experts here on Newstalk 1290 CJBK Saturday afternoon. And joining us here on the program now, as she does every other Saturday at this time, Joan Ball from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. You can also listen to Joan and her Real Estate Matters features Monday to Friday here on Newstalk 1290. And we welcome Joan to the program. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you, Joan. Excellent. Buyer, sellers market, Joan, these days?
Actually, it is a balanced market.
Oh.
We are starting to see a real pickup in the market. I usually look over the last 7 days, and we're running almost even with new listings versus new sales. So that's a real switch that, coming out of the February market, we have seen a few adjustments from a year ago.
Right.
And just to reflect on that, I used to put the stats together about the average sale that went over asking price. And a year ago, 90% of those sales went over asking price. This year, we're 24%. We're over asking price. So that means that, a huge percentage, 76%, we're under list price, under asking price, and the average under runs about 40,000. Average over runs about 17,000. So, that's important to reflect on where we have come through the year. It's up from definitely up over December, November, December, January.
Okay.
And it's back to about September, October averages in that regard. I do see that we're going to have a little bit of activity running through probably till about June, and it remains to be seen how active the summer will be.
Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290. CJBK from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. You can reach Joan at 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. And Joan also a member of the board of directors with LSTAR, London St. Thomas Association of Realtors. You actually surprised me off the top there, Joan. When I asked you about your seller's market, I didn't think that we were quite to the balance, but that's good news, isn't it?
It is, and I think that it bodes well for the fact that, really it's all relative. Yes, the interest rates have increased, and for some that may reduce the sense of affordability. However, I am finding buyers are sort of settling in and saying, okay, I'm just going to make this work for me. And certainly those who bought previously may have to do a little bit of adjusting, and many have locked in, so their interest rates have not increased. So they're certainly in that position where they're going to ride this for a little while. It really is one of those where we are still transitioning, but as it has tradition, our spring market, which starts in March, it looks like it is off to a good start.
Excellent. Going back, say, a year and a year to 2 years ago, Joan, and it could be a lot to do with the media, maybe just kind of putting a slant to stories in some cases. But, there were a lot of articles and stories about a certain demographic, whether it be that or basically a lot of people in general that were pushed out of the home buyers market. Do you see that maybe this has allowed some people in that, and whether that was the truth or not, and I'm sure in a lot of cases certainly it was, and still is to this point for some people, but it has now, where we've kind of settled down a bit, allowed some people in that maybe a year ago didn't think that they could enter the home buying market?
Well, the interest rates have not decreased. So that is a true reality.
Right.
So there may still be individuals who are very challenged to step into the home buying market. There's no doubt about that. I do, however, see individuals sort of finding a way to work through, either in looking at something less expensive or looking at something that they might be able to modify and do some cosmetic updates on their own when they move in. So it's just reconfiguring the perception of what is workable for them and how they might work around that. So still, I'm certainly encouraging people not to overspend. Real estate is, however, a fabulous investment, and it has proven a good, solid, tangible product for anyone going forward. And the rents are certainly, very challenging right now for a lot of people. So putting money into something that they can then build on is still a very, very wise investment.
Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290 CJBK, our real estate expert from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. You can reach Joan at 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. Home inspectors, have they come back into the picture on greater numbers than, say, back in the frenzied times, Joan?
Yeah, I'm certainly seeing all conditions being now entertained for many individuals. Not as many multiple offers. That certainly is why. Individuals being able to go in with even a condition on the sale of their house, home inspection, financing conditions, not taking the same risks that individuals were taking a year ago, because out of necessity, the competition was almost insisting on that. So yes, the conditions are back in most of the offers.
Got it. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290 CJBK. If you have purchased a home, Joan, and your move-in date is a month from now, call it whatever the date is, you get and I guess correct me where I'm wrong, do you get a couple of times to go into the home to check things out? Obviously, people want to see, do I have to buy curtains, and want to do some measurements, just do an overall inspection and just sort of, see the home again. Is that a couple of times that you get that?
Well, you only get that opportunity if your realtor has indicated that within the agreement of purchase and sale.
Okay.
And sometimes individuals will want one or two times in, maybe one or two times to just take some measurements, and or even take the kids in, because maybe they bought the house without the kids even seeing the house,
right,
or family members, or if they're going to do any updates, maybe taking somebody in to say, well, this is what we want to do, and get some pricing ahead of time. Certainly that, in many cases, with the seller's permission, is allowed. And then there's the final walkthrough. You always want to have that opportunity to go through right before closing to ensure that everything's going as expected. The property presents itself in the same condition as when you submitted your agreement of purchase and sale. But that's only indicated in the event that you have inserted that into your agreement of purchase and sale. So do make sure that happens.
Okay, good to know. You've probably seen scenarios where people put their home up for sale and they've done a lot of work to get it ready, and you're good at letting people know and advising them what maybe things can be tended to. If a home, say, the current homeowner is doing some small renos, and I'm thinking, say, in the bathroom, and maybe they've changed a shower out or something, but the faucets and stuff like that have not been put on when the purchase of the home was made, and you get that one final inspection, say, and they're still not on. What do you do? Do you deal with that through your own realtor to say, we want to make sure that on move-in date, those fixtures are there when my client moves in?
You want to absolutely put that and insert that into your agreement of purchase and sale. Very clearly how it's going to be done, when it's going to be done, and I often will say the work is completed prior to our final walkthrough on such and such a date. So you want to make sure that within 2 weeks or whatever is reasonable. Obviously, things happen, people rush, and they're trying to get the property on the market, get it sold. But if they're intending to complete some work and they're indicating to you, the buyer, that the work will be completed, you get that in writing. That needs to be part of the agreement of purchase and sale. And there needs to be a clear indication that, and in some instances, we will say, failing which there will be a $5,000 rebate on closing to attend to this, or whatever it is, or a reasonable cost rebate. We may get costs on that and find out how much it is, or whatever. Or some people will just take it on because they happen to be a plumber and that's no big deal. And so what, I'll do it because I'll pick out the faucet I want, or whatever.
Yep.
So, there's no one size fits all. However, having said that, having it written down, signed, everybody's agreeing to it, that is imperative if you expect the work to be done prior to closing.
Great to know. You don't take those things lightly, do you, Joan?
Not at all. Everybody has the best of intentions, and especially when you're putting the property on the market, you're going into a negotiations and putting an agreement of purchase and sale together. But at the end of the day, it's always it always warrants having it in writing so that everybody clearly understands what's expected and what will be the end result.
Joan Ball on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290. CJBK, if you want to gain the expertise and experience of Joan Ball, all you have to do, give her a call at Royal LePage, Triland Realty, 519-672-9880. JoanBall.com, the website address here on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290 CJBK, and we're back with more right after these. And welcome back to Ask the Experts on News Talk 1290. CJBK, our real estate expert, Joan Ball, with us from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. You can reach Joan at 519-672-9880. JoanBall.com, the website address. You did touch on, Joan, the spring market, and that's a busy time of year for buying and selling homes. When is there an official start date to that time frame?
Quite often individuals will sort of line up their ducks, so to speak, in January, February. And certainly a lot of people are really off the gate, out of the gate right away in January and listing properties. But I do find that, and the winter and the weather will have an impact. So I think that's part of it, is that we have seen a relatively mild, and I'll say relatively mild winter that allows us to, get out and look at properties when the weather's cooperating. So therefore, the activity will increase maybe a little bit earlier. Traditionally, the market really, as far as new lists and buyers responding, will start in March.
Okay.
But this year it is a bit early. So I do think that watching, when you see just as many listings come out in a 7-day period as sales, then you do firm sales, then you do see that is what you normally will start to see in March. So, but traditionally, you're a March to June sort of real focused market. That's when a seller can generate more response price-wise and activity and that kind of thing. And then the summer, July, usually people that's their holidays, and they'll take the holidays. But August can be very vibrant, very busy. Then September, people are back to school, and, it's sort of that re-gearing period of time. End of September, even halfway through September, and into end of November is another busy time, but not quite as busy as the March to June time. And then obviously as we approach and get closer to Christmas, it tends to slow down a bit.
Good to know those timelines. I got a question here, Joan. I'm curious as to the answer to this one. Alice asks, I called an agent yesterday as I saw a new for sale sign go up in our neighborhood. However, it is already sold and not online. Is there something I'm missing in the sales process, and can your expert explain?
So this is really what individuals need to know about aligning themselves or choosing their realtor to assist them if they want to go that way, is that there are what's called exclusive listings, where someone in a specific brokerage will take a listing and they will keep it exclusive within that brokerage. Now, if the brokerage is a large brokerage, that's great. A lot of agents are going to have exposure to that listing, but not necessarily, it may not necessarily be on MLS. It may not be on realtor.ca. So the multiple listing service MLS is what, most people will look online and they'll see a listing there, and then they'll see who the agent is, and they'll go from there. An exclusive listing is one where it is really within that brokerage. And if it's a one-man team, it's one individual who's exposing the property to the market. Now, there are discussions right now with the Canadian Real Estate Association to indicate that once a property is advertised publicly, that is expected that it would be listed on MLS within 3 days. Now, that is still in discussion. There will be a vote on that at the Canadian Real Estate Association annual general meeting, and then there will be a decision as to whether this will happen. And the reason for this is really fairness within the industry to allow full exposure so that buyers are able to access all listings. And so it may seem anti-competitive because obviously that agent wants to market it themselves, but really we're looking at it and what's in the best interest of the seller is to get it out there. And this market does demand exposure, and to ensure as many people as possible hear about the property, are exposed to the property, and that will ultimately benefit the seller in the end.
Good stuff. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts on Newstalk 1290, CJBK. And with your involvement with LSTAR, Joan, London St. Thomas Association of Realtors, anything on the horizon that would be of interest to our listeners? Anything? I know you've had a number of meetings over the last couple of months, and just to, go over some of the happenings in the real estate industry. Anything come to mind that maybe is a bit of news for us?
Yeah, I think a lot of individuals are not aware that the realtors that are part of the organization really are very actively involved in increasing housing to help with housing units and rentals, and make sure, because we really need to advocate on behalf of the general public. And so there's a lot of activity and research and data that we take into account when trying to or push the legislation and the government to really focus in a way that's going to take the strain off the housing rentals, housing ownership, maybe increase land transfer tax rebates for first-time home buyers, really all of that. But obviously this other one about the exclusive listings, that's certainly been a key point for our discussion. And also, I just came back from BC, and they have implemented a 3-day cooling off period for all buyers on their offers. So that is something we will look at. It may be a little late. I think it was the impetus for that was really in the fevered market when it was really so busy that people were putting in offers so quickly and then not having the luxury of having some time to think about it because they didn't have conditions. So BC has initiated this, and so that any buyer putting in an offer will have a 3-day period to withdraw that offer if they so choose, and that's a cooling off period for them to decide. So those are some of the things that are happening. We're very involved in our charity activity, lots of stuff coming up that we certainly are involved in over the calendar year. And certainly this is sort of award season for a lot of realtors and their brokerages. And, everybody's lots of education. We do have our mandatory courses that we have to take every 2 years to keep our license. And, that's certainly an active part of it. And our education component to the real estate board is very, very active and effective in keeping individual agents knowing about the legislation and the updates and how they need to work within the business.
Good stuff. Yeah, and it always amazes me how involved your organization is with local charities, that's for sure, and charities beyond also. So that's well done there. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts, real estate expert for us here from Royal LePage, Triland Realty, 519-672-9880. You can visit Joan's website as well, joanball.com. Very informative, whether you are buying or selling. You can find all the information you need to know at joanball.com and then follow up with phone call 519-672-9880. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts. Back with more right after these. And welcome back to Ask the Experts here on Newstalk 1290 CJBK, our real estate expert with us, Joan Ball, on the program today. Just a couple of minutes left here. Joan, Sarah and Tony would like to know, we are just starting the house hunting process and want to know if your expert would help us determine what the first steps are to better prepare ourselves.
What a great question. And, that is really... I don't worry about people like that because they're really wanting to do their research and launch it in the best possible way. And I think that there's a fair bit of information online that individuals are accessing, but finding and maybe interviewing someone who will represent your interests that you really feel there's a good fit, a good follow-up, and they're providing adequate and not just adequate, maybe extraordinary information to help you make an educated decision. I have always told, especially the first-time home buyers, my job is to provide you with the information and the foundation of knowledge so you can make an educated decision. Also sitting down with your, with maybe even more than one bank or financial mortgage broker specialist, however they want to label themselves, and finding out what your limits are and what your ability is. You may have some credit issues that need to be tidied up. It may take a little bit of time to do so, and looking at what your neighborhoods the neighborhoods are that you might want to live in. What's the product style you want? What's the size of property? What's the size of the house? What does it need to have? What can it have that are giving, things that you can give up? Or are you handy? Are you not handy? Are you away every weekend? Really getting a clear needs assessment as far as what you might want to do. And then what are the contingencies if things go wrong, or somebody gets ill or you lose a job or whatever. And really recognizing also in the process, if you've bought a house but you haven't closed on the house, don't go buying a huge amount of stuff that's going to impact on your credit score right before closing, because the banks will do another update on your affordability. And if you've gone and bought a truck or a whole bunch of furniture and put it on a credit card or whatever, you may no longer qualify for that actual amount for the mortgage. So just remember, there's a lot of things to keep in mind, and there is a process to go forward, and I think that couple will do well because they're asking the right questions.
Good stuff, and asking early too, and you've always been a proponent for it's never too early to start.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts Hour, a real estate expert, long-time expert from Royal LePage, Triland Realty. Joan's phone number, 519-672-9880, joanball.com. The website address, Joan, thank you so much for the great advice you've given not only myself, but our listeners today. And you have yourself a great weekend. We'll talk again in 2 weeks.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Joan Ball here on Ask the Experts. Again, you can reach Joan at Royal LePage, Triland Realty, 519-672-9880, joanball.com, the website address. Thanks to everybody for